Welcome to Deep Discussion Podcast. I'm your host and life coach, Walter Williams. Thank you for your continued support of Deep Discussion's mission to provide inspiration and understanding as sources of light in areas that appear dark. Welcome to now renamed Deep Discussion Live and Learn Podcast. I decided to rename the podcast because I thought that it was something that was a little bit more fitting and advertising with the direction that I want to go with my platform. So, it's been a while since I got behind the mic, so I'm excited to get back and, doing the, providing the messages and the inspiration that I love to share with you. I took a month off, as you know, we got through the holidays, and there was a little bit of revamping that I did. As you can see now, I'm as of about 2 weeks ago, I'm now considering myself a life skills coach. I still do general life coaching, but my specialty and area of expertise is life skills. And after releasing and publishing my book, Deep Discussions Life Skills Manual, I decided that that was the area that I really wanted to focus in. Actually, the one that I just showed you is actually a prototype. This is actually the official copy. And also, as you can see now, I'm doing video. I decided to finally get with the times. So again, thank you for continuing to support the mission, and I hope that not only I inspire you, but you inspire others that you encounter and come in contact with on a daily basis. So as we begin this 2023 year, the topic that I want to discuss with you is intention. And today's episode is entitled, "What's the meaning of this? Defining your intention." And I start with the reading of a poem I wrote entitled Sheer Intent. Once twisted in fate, unaware but withstood. No knowledge of my destination, fixated on what should. Thoughts go arising, leaving hope and contempt. Bridled in every phase, despite my valiant attempt. Taking one step forward, I remain unsure. This isn't what I envisioned when I opened the door. No matter what the scene bears on its surface, if the target isn't defined, then the intent remains worthless. I was inspired to talk to you about this because over the last month or two, I had not necessarily had doubts, but I had uncertainties about the direction I wanted to go in with my platform. And every now and then, sometimes I wonder, is this something that I really should keep doing? And a lot of the times, our intentions are driven by the approval of those that we want to impress, that we want to receive recognition from, or that we want to receive business from when we have something to offer. And a lot of the times I found myself going back and forth with this because originally when I established Deep Discussion, my thought was, as long as I'm inspiring one person, then I'm doing what this platform was designed to do. But like most human beings, sometimes I get caught up in the idea of, monetizing and, getting more recognition from what it is that I do with Deep Discussion. And we align our intentions, again, with getting someone's buy-in or interest most of the times. However, there are times when some people go and do things because they want to make a difference or because it makes them happy. And it's something that keeps them balanced. And that's what I wanted to do with Deep Discussion. But as a human being, sometimes, again, I go back and forth and I battle these things. So think about when people go into business. It's very rare that people go into business with the intent just because they get to do something that makes them feel good or just because they want to make a difference. A lot of the times there's something else that motivates them and that drives them to go into business. And that could be to seek approval, to, gain more revenue and to become more, make more money. Or it could just be because they feel a need to to be heard about something. And a lot of the times that can be a two-way street. Sometimes wanting to be heard about something can mean either you want something to be heard or you want to be heard. So that's a double-edged sword sometimes that we have to battle with and kind of take at our own merit or kind of determine our own perception of it. But the three questions you have to ask yourself when you go into doing something, whether it's going into business to do something, whether it's your career choice, whether it's who you choose to date, to marry, to go into a relationship with, or whatever you commit to, you have to first make sure you assess your intentions. Kind of like the old saying when fathers will ask gentlemen, what is your intentions with my daughter? But there are three questions that you should ask yourself. How bad do you want to make a difference? If that is one of the things that drive you. Do you want to make a difference so bad that you are worried about the implications or the potential impact that it can have on another generation, which may include your children? Do you want to make a difference so bad because it's impacting the community that you live in? Like, how impacted are you by wanting to make by the difference that needs to be made? Or are you just worried about others? So you have to assess that and find out, if you take yourself out of the equation, is this difference or this impact something that you still feel is necessary to do? How far are you willing to go to make a positive impact in someone's life? And that kind of piggybacks off of what I just said. But what it comes down to is, if someone comes to you with a problem that is related to what it is that you are trying to initiate or establish, how far are you willing to go to meet that person's needs? Are you willing to meet their needs to a point where it requires a lot more work than maybe what you intended on? Because a lot of times when we go into things, sometimes we find new avenues, we find new challenges. And do we embrace those challenges, or do we become discouraged by it? Sometimes we go into these things aware of the challenges that may come. And if you go into it still aware of those challenges, but still want to tackle that mission, then that says a lot about your drive and your intention. Is there a minimum to the output of your efforts that you be content with? So again, all three of these things kind of go hand in hand. But if you are doing what it is that you intend to do, and you only impact a certain amount of people, or you only impact a person to a certain level, like, how do you measure what it is that you are planning to do, and how do you measure what the result or the output is compared to what your intentions were? As I stated earlier with my journey of life coaching, what really happened with me too is, as I shared with you earlier, I discovered my passion for life skills. So what really drove me to have this discussion is that sometimes intentions are purely based on how passionate you are about something. Are you so passionate that you're flexible to make updates and modifications in the process? Because I came in with such a broad scope of what my delivery and what my platform would be about. But as I continue to do different things that I carry with my platform, I realized that there's a bigger focus that I can really bring in with my platform. Sometimes we make things so generic and so broad because we want to gain as much traction as possible. But if you're so passionate about something, you want to make sure that you're giving the right message, the right services, or the right output, whatever that may be, to the right people. And sometimes we're not focused on delivering the right message to the right people. We're just trying to deliver what we deem, or what the world and society may deem, is the best output to get the most people. So that really brings into the question of quality versus quantity, which is like an age-old dilemma that we go through. And the more and more I thought about how much I wanted to make money off of deep discussion, the more complicated it became. Because I came into doing deep discussion purely off of it being a hobby. I've shared this story over and over again. It started off with me writing poetry and wanting to share it in a way that touches and and inspires people. And the more and more I thought about it, I kept thinking, all right, if I just read these poems, how are they going to connect with people? So you want to make it relatable. So instead of, reading poems and just saying this poem is about such and such, I took it a step further and said, okay, I'm gonna just do a podcast or do videos and speak about what messages that came about that kind of, carried me along in my life. And now I want to inspire people. And there was one specific situation experience that I went through that drove me here, and I wanted to share what I learned from that experience. And over time, I continue to, grow and develop different ways to make deep discussion more versatile, more useful, and more relatable to people. So instead of just reading poems, I decided, okay, let me just, talk about something, share stories, and give a life lesson or learning, a point of an opportunity of learning in the situation. But then I got away from the whole idea of poetry, which is and still is the heart and soul of deep discussion. So now I have my platform the way I have it today. I share a poem with you, and then I go and have a discussion based off of it. I've always, again, maintained the attitude of wanting this to be more of a hobby. I don't want it because the more and more you focus on wanting to make as much money as you can off of something, the less fun it becomes. You start to worry more about what's going to generate so much revenue as opposed to what's going to make you happy. And sometimes putting happiness and money in the same hemisphere makes things very complicated. And this is one thing that I did not want to tie into that equation. So when I started looking at trying to monetize and think about how I can make as much money as I can off of things, I started questioning, should I even be doing this? And that's what happens when our intentions starts to drift and shift towards money, recognition, all of that stuff. Our intentions start to not necessarily fade away, but you start to want to question, what were my true intentions, and have they been met? Have I even been in line or on pace to even meet those intentions? Target delivery versus target audience is a really important and critical element of what your intentions are, because target delivery is more about the substance of what it is you want to put out and what it is you're trying to share and give and do and take part in. Whereas target audience, a lot of the time, starts going down that rabbit hole of recognition, of money, of all of those things that come that we sometimes, seek, and pulls us away from what our original area of focus was. So the question you have to ask yourself when it comes to this is, do you place more focus on what you're delivering or who you're delivering it to? When you place more emphasis on who you want to impress, your connection to what you're delivering starts to fade away. Think about how local fast food restaurants and even some other major chains try to add more products, more more things to their menu or to what it is they sell. They start to sometimes lose that steam or that drive and that edge of what it is that brought them here. And it really speaks to one of my favorite quotes that I always live by, and that's never forget where you came from. When they start focusing on adding more to their palette, they do that because they want to generate more income, generate more customers, and generate more interest. But what about your interest? What about what first brought you here and what drove you? What were your true intentions to begin with? So if you are someone that that's a website designer, you like to create websites for people, and suddenly you find yourself hearing a lot of people talking about, oh, it'd be nice to have marketing and to have someone that creates ads and flyers and all of that stuff. But you were very passionate about designing and creating websites. I'm not saying don't add more to your plate, or don't add more to what it is you have to offer. But what I'm saying is don't do that because just because it's an opportunity to gain more customers or generate more revenue. Do it because it's something that you're very passionate about. Because a lot of the times then we start to do a halfway job of both things that we want to offer because we lose our edge and our focus on what the original thing was that brought us into business. Because now we got to devote 25% or half of the attention from that to now the additional thing that we want to bring on board. So when so much, again, I said it, when so much emphasis is placed on who you want to impress, and the source of impressing more people, you start to hurt and damage the relationship that you have with what you're originally offering. And it creates more distractions, to be honest. You become distracted from what the quality of your platform, of your business, of your product, and you become less focused on what it is that you were originally putting out there. So again, quality versus quantity. We're now going to segue over to the segment Spiritual Relief, where I share a verse and give 3 points that stood out with that verse. And today's verse is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verses 5 through 7. And it reads, "It is better to be criticized by a wise man than to be praised by a fool. For a fool's compliment is as quickly gone as paper and fire, and it is silly to be impressed by it. The wise man is turned into a fool by a bribe. It destroys his understanding." 3 points that I took away from all of this, and I'll give my breakdown or explanation of each point after I read it. With unmovable intent, we rob ourselves to things of the flesh that have no true substance of what we are truly looking to uncover. A mission without God is one with no sense of direction and lacking the true essence of what it emboldens. And lastly, when the wrong target is placed at the end of our journey, it is a journey that will long remain unsettled. The first point with unmovable intent, we rob ourselves to things of the flesh that have no true substance of what we are truly looking to uncover. We become wrapped up, as I was saying to you earlier with the website design example, we become so wrapped up in the results of things. We're a very results-driven society nowadays. And if something is not producing the way we think it should have, then we become discouraged by the whole thing. And instead of improving what we're passionate about, what really brought us here, we question, should we have ever been here to begin with? So with unmovable intent, we rob ourselves to things of the flesh. So if your intent is not, if you stick to one specific thing of, I want to make as much money as I can, then a lot of the times you become your actions become dictated by that of people that has no direct control over what it is you do. You basically lose control of what it is you're trying to put out there. And a mission without God is one with no sense of direction and lacking the true essence of what it embodies. Without God, we have we have no source of identity when it comes to what it is we want to pursue or what it is we're trying to deliver. Because God created us in his image. And if we don't include him in what it is we're after, then how are we supposed to move forward without the creator of us and our entire self having an input or say in how we're directed and where we're headed? And lastly, when the wrong target is placed at the end of our journey, it is a journey that will long remain unset. This pretty much speaks to having no sense of direction. And I'll speak to this a little bit deeper in my next and last segment of the podcast. But placing the wrong target at the end of your journey pretty much means that you'll get to what you think is the end, and then you'll have to reroute yourself. So two things. One, be prepared to have to shift, refocus, and reroute in your journey, as opposed to keep going after something and being stubborn to the point that you hold yourself back and it happens to a fault. What happens is we get so drawn up in one specific end goal that we limit the paths that we can go down. So think of it as you're at a fork in the road, and one direction says one thing, another direction says another thing, and then there's another one straight ahead saying something different. If we don't have an open mind about what the journey has to bring, a lot of the times what happens is we don't do our research, and we don't at least explore what the other routes or the other directions are trying to present to us. We focus on one thing, we have a one-track mind, and could miss out on something special that could be on one of the other roads that we didn't choose to go there. For the last segment, top 5, and I've been trying to come up with a name for this segment and just haven't done it yet. So hopefully in the year 2023, I can come up with a name for this segment. But what this is a list of the top. It can be, sometimes it may be 3, sometimes it may be 5, but it's never any more than 5. But the top 3 to 5 things pertaining to a certain subject that is related to the topic of discussion. And today I discussed the top 5 distractions that disrupt our path to our true purpose. The first is external noise. External noise is a distraction, and sometimes we allow it to dictate the direction that we choose to go in. Material interests. Material interests are things that are of, I guess, the way I like to explain it, and it can be explained many different ways, but in this regard, I like to say it's something that is of the flesh, that is not solely connected to where your passion, your purpose, and your intent was originated. It's something that, again, could be money, it could be fame, it could be recognition. Those are the kind, because it's things that you can't directly control, and that that can be very detrimental sometimes to your heart, your passion, and your long-term happiness. Unrealistic expectations, and this is probably one that I can probably connect with the most. Unrealistic expectations can be timing, resources. It can be anything that you can think of that we draw as what we think we should accomplish. Sometimes it's okay to have, to think above and beyond, but sometimes you have to have a realistic expectation too. And I'm not saying shortchange yourself or doubt yourself, but what happens is we create these unrealistic expectations and get so wrapped up in a certain thing that we don't give ourselves a chance to, as I stated earlier, to explore all of the options that exist out there because we're so focused on accomplishing one specific thing as opposed to all of the things that can be accomplished in this one mission or this one journey. Wrong support. And this is self-explanatory. Reaching out, connecting with people that don't have your best interest, people that don't know much about what it is you're trying to get accomplished. We all have or still do reach out to people that we think are going to tell us what we want to hear. But what about the people that tell you what you need to hear? And lastly, another one of my favorite ones that speaks to what I discussed earlier about lack of direction, that's improper preparation. How you prepare for your journey, how you prepare for a task, and how you prepare for whatever it is that you're planning to take part in is probably more important than how you finish. I know they always say it's not how you start, it's how you finish, but how you prepare is just as important. Preparation is not just getting ready to do something. It's planning, it's researching, it's informing, it's educating. You know, what you do on that day when you decide to initiate it is not a part of preparation. That's getting started. Preparation is what you do leading up to. And where we sometimes shorten ourselves with preparation is we want to get started immediately. We want to jump right into the thick of things before we do the proper research and do the right thing to prepare ourselves for what it is that we want to get involved in. Thank you again for your continued support of Deep Discussion. It is such a blessing and an incredible gift that God has given me to be an inspiration and a source of understanding and light to those that I connect with, whether it be directly or indirectly. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I am going to start being more active on TikTok with my poems. That's been one of the many projects that I've been working on. And also, please visit deepdiscussion.org to learn more about my services. I still do general life coaching services. I do business advocacy services where I help business owners and entrepreneurs get the word out about what it is they have to offer. I do three different things with that. I do podcast placement. I can have you on as a guest to talk about your product, and we can talk about emerging issues and topics around it. And you can also be featured in Deep Discussions newsletter. And if you haven't subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button at the bottom of deepdiscussion.org. And also, as I stated earlier, I now have a book that I sell, Deep Discussions, Life is What You Make It Life Skills Manual. And I also redid Deep Discussions, My Thoughts and Writing book of poetry. So be sure to visit the website to learn more about Deep Discussions products and services. And if you want to be a guest on the show, be sure to reach out to me. My phone number is 443-916-5009, or you can email me at deepdiscussion13@gmail.com. Thank you so much for supporting Deep Discussion, a different way of thinking.